All right. Well, welcome to another bussin' episode of Energy Bites. I am Bobby Neal, and I've got my trusty co-host, John Calfan.
How
here.
we doing?
How we doing?
Good to see you, Bobs.
Likewise, buddy. And the Razorbacks have just continued to
It's so wonderful.
be terrible.
My Saturdays are totally free now. It's so great. I told my wife after, I think it was like the Notre Dame game, I was like, there's a very strong chance we don't win another game. And we haven't. And it's been
everything you hoped it could be.
Yeah. Well, now the rumors are they're hiring Barry Odom as the DC and Bobby as the OC with no specific head coach. And like, oh, that'll work. That'll work great.
Yeah, I'm sure all the recruits are going to be all over that.
Yeah. So I'm sure that's going to change tomorrow. So who knows? But
Well,
fun year.
luckily for our guest, he went to Texas Tech, and they're actually having
Yeah, y'all are having a hell of a season.
Yeah,
What is that like?
I was shocked.
What's it like to
Well,
win?
I know.
thank you, oil money.
That's right.
Hey, they just understand the game. It's totally changed, and it is what it is. Like they're going to keep massaging it or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's why Dabo's not doing well, is because the old style of coaching and recruiting is not.
He is just fighting it tooth and nail. But yeah. So in case you're wondering, though, our guest is Justin McBroom.
Let's intro you first.
Formerly of Marathon Oil Corporation, and I would butcher his title, and apparently they're all fake anyways. But I mean, what kind of operations, digital data, analytics, kind of all those kind of things wrapped in one?
Yeah, it's we were part of their integrated performance organization. It was central support for operations, and our team didn't belong in the asset, but supported it.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I got the Island of Misfit Toys.
Yeah.
And so I made up a unique, very long, confusing title to keep people guessing what I did.
I think that's one of the things that most of the like more successful operators have started doing, that model. Like I know Devin does something similar to that. I think EQT kind of does something similar to that. And so it's like, because it's like, okay, well, we want to try out this new thing, but it's going on the AFE if you don't have that department with a budget to pay for the new things. And then if it's going on the AFE, everyone's raising hell because it's all their bonuses are tied to AFE or operations. And so I think that's like one of the most useful ways for oil and gas companies to actually test and implement technology and new tools, is because it doesn't have to come directly from the completion engineer's AFE, and he's not going to get mad about it.
And I think the unique thing about our team was on the data side specifically, like I had the measurement team, production data and reliability and some of the normal operation stuff, but the data team that we had was actually made up of petrotechs, as opposed to being centralized through IT.
Mm-hmm.
We actually had the experience of the people that knew what was going on, knew the workflows, understood what needed to happen, what data would help. So as opposed to, the old model was just go to IT, tell them your requirements, and then iterate indefinitely
Wait 2
until
months.
until no one wants to do it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that was a big thing, even seeing that difference between, say, what we did at Grayson Mill and how they did at Devon. I don't think any one way is right or wrong, but like, say, for us, it was like I was running the data team, but we put like a tech or an analyst in each kind of functional group, and they were kind of dotted line back to us. So we were making sure we're keeping those lines of communication open versus like, I've seen different organizations where it's, solid line back to, say, IT or a data organization, and they sit in the group, but it's not, they have two masters, and and it's, I think we made that decision not super intentionally, but I was big on, like, I think the first one we did was putting a gentleman in the production team, and it was like, we could keep him on our team and it'd be fine, but our VP of ops, Ken, he's going to want his guy. Like, he's always going to want his guy. They're going to like, let's put him there. Like, and so he's at Ken's beck and call.
Yeah.
But he's going to work with us and communicate with us, and they're going to get it from the centralized source. But like, I think it's, for me, I think it's important to have that expertise, like in the group, working directly with the production engineers or whoever the people are, even the foreman and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. For me, it was important that we were under the operations executive vice president, because, culturally, a lot of things end up being top down when it's transformational change. And so when you're in their org and you can go sit with them and get their buy-in, then you don't have as much opt out. right?
Yeah.
So if I'm going to a drilling manager and saying, hey, your well view's incomplete and we can't use this for the analytics that we're trying to build out.
Yeah.
If I'm in IT, he says, who are you? I don't care.
So
Right. But now he's like, oh, the EVP said so.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll get on board. I might not like it, but I'll get on board.
Sure.
So it was better to be in that organization to affect the change that we needed to make. So that it was a positive.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you think, and this doesn't have to be specific to any company, but what are some things that you think operators should do, or like lessons learned that you've experienced that are really good and valuable from that perspective? And what are some things that you see commonly that you're just like, why are we still doing things this way?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this will be the entire podcast. So.
Yeah, it's interesting, the lessons. I think the first thing is just around data and workflow. With consolidation and reduction and everything else, we've seen that. And one of the first things to drop off somebody's plate is like scrubbing the data.
Yeah.
So when you lose staff and all of a sudden you've got to do more, well, you probably have to stop doing something else. And what they usually stop doing is looking at the data. You might lose a tech in a group and somebody's doing double duty. And you could see that through time where data quality goes down, completeness goes down. And I don't think they cared as much. So we tried to somewhat incentivize people around the data as an asset.
Yeah.
Treat it like an asset. So I think that's critical for people to continue to do in basically all environments.
And are you thinking like, is it field data entry, that kind of stuff all the way through, like even just having like different checks or exception reporting or like?
I think it's all of it, right? Now we've gotten a lot smarter at how we review data.
Yeah.
Right. So exception-based surveillance on your data is the next level where you can actually look and say, that lateral length doesn't make sense, or TD's null, whatever, instead of having to go in and read every daily report. So it's data capture. And I think the interesting thing is get more than you think you're going to need.
Yeah. You can't go get it later, right?
Yeah. And so you never know what's going to come in the future that you could actually use that and it would be powerful. So, in all environments, data is going to make sense because you're going to need it at some point. You can't improve what you don't measure, and you don't know what you don't know yet. So,
Bobby and I have very strong feelings on that. In our past lives, we worked at a gauge company, and so doing defits or frac interference or PTA and stuff like that. And it's one of those things. It's the same, at least with a defit, right? It's like there's only one time to get that data, and it really doesn't cost much, and it really shouldn't mess up any of your operations if you do it right. But it's another thing, right? And so but it's just crazy because it's such a simple thing that.
Yeah. But I think then on the other side, you get into it and then but people wanted 1 second data when they didn't even need it at that point. So then there's like, you're capturing unnecessary data. And I think we've got a lot of that too. But again, it's like, you can always filter it out. You can't recreate it. Right. But, but the thing is situational. It's like the pressure is literally not going to change enough in 1 second versus 5 seconds for it to matter. Or a minute for that matter. But
I think that the other thing that I think is what success looks like, what good looks like, is giving the actual business users the right tools and access. And so I post a lot about IT locking things down. Spotfire InfoLink is your only access
just posted that, right?
to data. Because it's frustrating. I would have people call me, how do I get access to the data? Okay, well, what are you comfortable? What level are you at? Right? Because
SQL.
It's some people want Python, some people want SQL. Other people have no idea.
They want to see
right? And so, but I remember when we were locked down to accessing data through either the application and downloading reports or going to Spotfire info link.
Right.
And we didn't govern those very well, right? So if I needed data from, say, SAP, I would call up somebody, they would create a view, they would write an info link for that view, and it would be a one and done. I would never use it again, but it perpetually stayed in the library.
Yeah, someone could go grab that with no context.
Exactly.
Right? Like,
it was never updated. It was stale. It didn't fit their need, but it's like, oh, here's SAP data. This must be what I need.
Well, that could be dangerous in the wrong hands, especially at a public company if it's not, like you said, if there's not like super good governance on the access side. But no, I agree 100%. I've seen some bizarre shadow IT stuff go on with Spotfire information links. Like I've done some of it too, but like writing the SQL inside of like Information Designer and and then you just look at these data canvases and like, why is my Spotfire slow? Well, you're pulling 5 million rows into RAM, and then you're doing an unpivot and a case win and an overstatement, and now it's looping over every row to do that.
Yeah.
Is that technically like a SQL injection by doing SQL in Spotfire? It's pretty crazy.
Well, it's like, but then at that point, it's running almost like a virtual.
Yeah. It's like a VM almost, or
it's a
environment.
What do they call it? Like data virtualization layer almost, where it's like it's connected to thing, but then the processing I think is happening on the Spotfire server, and then it's coming. But then it could be happening, and then it gets into Spotfire, and then someone does their manipulations and pivots and transformations on it.
Yeah. I had a chemist, and he was basically loading daily production for all like US onshore. Maybe not for all time, but for a lot of time, right?
Yeah.
Because these things are based on who originally built them. And if they didn't add the right filters. And he was loading all that data to summarize by asset by month. And I'm like, I'm just going to go into Snowflake. I'm going to write a view for you.
Yeah.
And he didn't understand anything I said.
You're right.
But I got him to use a data connection, connect to the view, and he goes, wow, it loads in like seconds instead of like all day. And
shocking.
Yeah, he had no idea.
Yeah.
Right. But those are the opportunities where educating people, understanding their workflows, what are you really trying to do? All that stuff matters. And the more people that can do it, it doesn't have to be me or my team. If I can train other people to do it, they can support, their peers. So there's a ton of examples where it's people are pulling everything.
Yeah.
And they don't need to.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Big time. Yeah. I mean, there's a huge, again, you got to meet people where they're at. And I mean, you've got so many different layers of, you've got some nerdy reservoir engineer who, taught himself, Rust and wants to write everything in Python and, just give me access and let me go. Give me an ODBC connection and I'm good, down to like, no, I need you to build me this pivot table in Excel because I literally don't know how to do it. And there's everywhere in between. But to your point, like your post and what we've talking about, like a Spotfire information link is a point of access, but it should not be the point of access. Yeah. I can speak to what we did at GME, and actually I was pleasantly surprised what I saw at Devon for a big, public company. But we made sure everyone had an ODBC driver installed, like when their laptops were created, and like the DSN was created. I think that was done programmatically by IT. And then we just then I was able to help them get the connections, but they could connect Excel directly to, their say accounting data in, Snowflake via ODBC connection. And now they could pull it down. And what people don't realize a lot of times is you can pull way more than 1 million rows into Excel as long as you pull it into memory, into the connection, and you can run pivot tables on 100 million rows if you want, and it'll fold that into the SQL on the back end, especially for direct query stuff. But
I remember I was working a planning project. That's really what got me into data is KPIs and metrics.
Mm-hmm.
And so we came up with the KPIs and the reports, and then it's like, okay, now you've got to go build these and maintain them. And we were doing the worst thing. So if you're doing this, stop doing this. We were opening every application. So you would go into WellView and you would pull your reports. or you would go into Spotfire and you would generate a report and you would export it, put in Excel. And so you had all of these systems and Excel workbooks, and then you're doing VLOOKUPs across them. Something would change in the schema, your VLOOKUP would break. And I'm like, we've got to find a better way to do this. And that's really what got me passionate about data, is like, this is, my ass is on the line to get this done. How do I do it better? And we went from, there's probably 8 of us killing ourselves on workday 6. You know, I mean, 2-3 o'clock in the morning finishing up to making direct connections, using the right tools, upskilling people, and 2 people were knocking it out by noon.
Yeah.
And so it was just a massive change that we saw. And then we ended up migrating to more Snowflake as our cloud data warehouse. And I remember being excited about Snowflake until I saw it. And I go, this is just SQL. And like, I'm not a coder. And I'm like, the people that need to get to this don't really know SQL, right? I'm thinking of all the technicians and support. They're not SQL users. So I worked with IT and was like explaining, we need another layer in here, usable layer. Alteryx is my like go-to secret sauce, but they didn't want to give everyone access. So we ended up just putting Sigma computing on top.
Yeah.
And once you taught people how to use it, it's basically Excel on top of Snowflake. Incredibly powerful. And the things that people were able to create and do on their own are just amazing.
Yeah.
And so all SSO, you didn't have to worry. Whatever roles you had, ported over.
They're not writing back to the database either.
It can.
Well, I mean, you have control to allow them to do that. You're not just lifting up.
Yeah, we did POC, but like for us, what we were doing a lot with Power Query and like Excel directly tied, and just having another tool to run up compute just didn't make sense for our company at our size. But I know, like, I'm pretty sure Devin has a case study with them, and y'all did as well. I think y'all went to the Snowflake conference and talked about it. But I've heard really good things. That it's like an Excel like spreadsheet interface.
Yeah,
but it sits on top of. And I think you can choose it. It'll run like in the same cloud, even as your Snowflake instance, I believe. And it's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
I think the big thing there for me is like, especially now with all the LLM stuff, is like how much more powerful and better can our companies be if we give people access to the data that they need, and 2, we empower them to do something with that data to solve their own problems. And it's like, whoa, like we've started hearing more and more companies where they're starting to let, the drilling and completions departments kind of have access to some of these tools, either coding agents or whatever, but they're able to quickly solve their problems.
Between Snowflake or Databricks and something like, why not give them a sandbox environment like this? Like, and then you have formal ways to promote things to production, but and then you definitely need to put bounds on how much compute and the things will time out and whatever. But like with the proper governance, like give them a spot to play around with things and just might be really shocked. I mean, and I've heard, and I've actually used it a little bit at one of my customers, but I mean, like I know within Databricks, their AI thing in there is really good as far as like helping write code and do stuff within there. Yeah. And I know Snowflake's got their answer to that. You've been using MotherDuck. Like there's a lot of things out there now that can upskill a noob to dangerous really quick.
Yeah. I got my MotherDuck MCP stood up on my cursor instance, and it's awesome.
Nice.
Just query all those tables that we've been working on and be like, oh, this one sucks. I need to fix it. And I don't have to open MotherDuck at all. I never see it.
Yeah. No, and like I said, I was hesitant to pick up Alteryx when it started, but the SQL I know is from Alteryx.
Okay. Yeah.
And they have a virtual query builder. And so you literally just see your schema, and then you click on a table, and then you can select the columns you want. You can write the filters, and you just tab over and it shows you the SQL. So just being curious, I'm like, what happens when I do this? Oh, that's a where clause. That's what that means. A select statement, right? And so I was able to get good enough at SQL The only problem that I had is I don't want to say too much access, but for our Snowflake instance to load, it was basically caching all the metadata.
Also, Alteryx was pulling into the server or something like that. It wasn't like it was running on top necessarily.
Right. So it was sitting beside it, right? And so every time I wanted to open that connection, I had to wait.
Okay.
And so what I started doing is either going directly to Snowsite and do an investigation or dbeaver or something.
Yeah.
And then I would take the query and go in and throw
So does
it in.
Alteryx have it almost reverse where you could provide the SQL and it generates that's pretty sweet.
Yeah. So you could do SQL, you could do the visual query builder. The trick was if I was connecting to a database is remembering what database it was.
Yeah.
So is it Oracle or is it SQL? Right. And the select star or the select top versus where row num equal. And so, but no, that every person that came on my team got a license and picked it up, quick learning curve.
Nice.
And so I still fought through the very end to have it until I was done. So
what were some of the, how much pushback did you get when y'all kind of proposed that idea? Because normally, at least traditionally in oil and gas, IT does not like to give people access to anything, no less lots of data.
Oh, I was fortunate. So it really started, we ran this planning project and we were transforming the way we did corporate planning. And so.
Is that like the planning variables database thing?
Part of it.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was multifaceted, like our PV inputs, trying to normalize inner site, even when we did type curve updates, like we just redid the whole way we did planning. And so I was reporting directly to, he essentially became the vice president of planning. And I would go, hey, I need this access and they're not giving it to me. And he would go talk to the CIO and they'd be like, all right, give him the access he needs. Yeah. And after about 3 iterations of that, people would just go, okay, you're kind of like a made man. We'll let you have access. Nice. And I think we only really made an impact one time to a production system. We hit BW while they were trying to run consolidations. And, it's all on HANA, which is in memory, and we crashed it. And so we're like, all right, we need to put some guardrails around this one. But
most of it too, if you're centralizing into a Snowflake, then a lot of times if they've got it coming up, then most of the times it shouldn't even hit the source.
When we went to Snowflake, it was no issue at all.
Yeah.
One of the other things that we were able to get done, and I'm surprised that more people aren't doing this, is everybody thinks data is sensitive. Oh, you're in that asset, you can't see this asset. Or you're in operations, you can't see. And it's like, I'm a custodian of the company. Yeah. Why would you try to keep this from me? Yeah. Right. So what we did was flipped it on its head. And we said, everything is going to be general access. Everyone can have it unless you deem it sensitive. Right? Yeah. So instead of just assuming it's sensitive and fighting to get it open, and really the only thing that ended up being quote unquote sensitive was the financials and the forecast.
Yeah.
And all they were trying to do was make sure you didn't have a complete view of the company.
Yeah. So you can go trade stock on it, right?
Yeah. It's like, all right, you can have forecast, but just this segment.
Right.
You can have actuals, but just this segment. And so that really helped just access in general. Right.
It makes a ton of sense, right? Like let's not lock everything down. Yeah. Let's only lock the important things down, right? Like we don't want people accessing, HR and people's salaries, but if they need production data, why wouldn't we give them production data?
Yeah. And that was, I guess we kind of did that by default at Gmail also, but then when went over to Devon, similar kind of secure by exception model, essentially where it's it's all open unless we say it needs to be locked down. And I think especially with the public companies, a lot of times they'll even have like a separate instance,
Right.
For the financial stuff. It's not even just totally partitioned. And I think it's a lot easier for audit purposes and everything too.
Yeah.
It's the only like negative of that I've heard was apparently Chesapeake back in the day, and this is like early teens, maybe even before that, but their like exploration folder was public. Oof. And so one of the land guys would just feed all the data to his brother and he'd go lease up everything, and they didn't.
Well, that's data governance. I mean, that's part of this. Like
right.
you arrive at this, but then like you actually still need to govern it. We can't just like, well, it's all open, here. I mean, like if you choose to do that, then.
Well, yeah. And I mean, at the same note, right, that only takes a few times of buying your new exploration acreage from the same person to be like, what's happening here? Yeah. Like, how is he always ahead of us?
Yeah.
That only goes so long.
I think at the end of the day, people that are going to do that are going to find a way to do it.
And they shouldn't be working for you anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And again, it's like trust, but verify. Yep. But until somebody proves that they're not trustworthy, just let them have at it.
Hopefully most people that you've hired, you've done a good job of vetting them, and that they have the company's best interest at heart, and that you've aligned their incentives well enough with the performance and everything. That
I used to joke around when I was on the planning project. I had unfeathered access, and it was all segments. I could see forecasts, I could see actual. So I was on the blacklist. I couldn't trade during certain periods of time. And I used to joke with my boss. I'm like, what am I missing? And he said, well, what are you talking about? And I go, I have access to all this data. Either I'm too busy to spend enough time to look at it, or don't know what I'm seeing, because I can't tell if this is going to push us higher or lower in earnings. It's like,
well, you know how like the forecast is going to be interpreted by the street. Like, are you sandbagging? And they think that you're going to beat it anyways. It's like,
you never know. Right. I always think it's fascinating that all of them come up with their estimates. And it's like, how the hell are you estimating anything? But then also everything is based off the estimates. So it's like, if you just come out and are like, they're going to do good, and they did good, but they didn't meet your estimate. Yeah. Now it's still, is that a negative? Like, how is that possible?
Well, I know that when Gmae got acquired, they were worried about over going past the too far over forecast.
Yeah.
Because the street might not like that. And like, how's that a bad
crazy? Thing? Right. Like, why is that a bad thing?
But so let's pivot a little bit, because I think it's going to help us stay on some of the stuff anyways. But so Justin, you've been doing a lot of, that's kind of how we came to be, but like posting a lot on LinkedIn.
Yep.
Trying to find his next job, if anyone.
Don't stop, because
likes what he's saying.
It's good stuff.
Accepting offers. So,
he's a free agent.
But I mean, how many days in are you now? But I mean,
over 100.
Yeah. Over 100 days consistent, like straight up. I mean, that people, you don't realize until you try to do it. Like, that takes a lot, especially like to the quality that you're doing it as well. Like, it takes a lot of diligence and like stick to itness, like to do it, even like it's like weekends and holidays. And I'm sure you're scheduling some of this out, I assume. Maybe not. But
I have these bursts of thought for content, and I'll put that in notes. But it's usually kind of day before. And I was joking with some folks the other day. So I usually use ChatGPT or Gemini to generate an image for whatever the post is. And I was fighting so much to get the image I wanted, I just changed the topic for the day. It was like I wanted a woodworker like working behind his back, right? So working on something blindly. Yeah. And it would not do it. It was like, this is not normal, and I've never seen this, and the body doesn't contort that way, so I'm not going to give it to you. They're still predictive models at the end of the day. If it doesn't have something to base it off of, it doesn't do very well.
My mother-in-law posted a text today for a recipe for pumpkin mousse. So I went and typed pumpkin mousse into Gemini, and it created a pretty awesome picture. It's like this mousse with a bunch of jack-o'-lanterns that make it up.
That's incredible.
That's pretty awesome. But so, I mean, like, again, we're well over 100 days in now. So, and you actually did some analytics on your posts here recently, but like, and you can go into a little bit like what are some of your most popular ones, and like I'd be interested like because one thing that could be infuriating about LinkedIn or the algorithm is how much the algorithm changes, and you may have been doing it long enough to see it change over 2 or 3, 4 months. But like, what's one that at least you were like super proud of, and maybe it got numbers, maybe it didn't, but
yeah, there's, it's interesting. I actually ran an experiment because one of the ones that got probably, outsized attention was one of those days. Like I was busy, I didn't have enough time, and I go, what can I post? And I remember seeing somebody else had done this. So I gave my LinkedIn profile picture to ChatGPT and said, roast me.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my post for the day, was the roast. But my LinkedIn image is me standing in front of the building, which is the, proxy for it's your last day.
Yeah, like so when XCOM, they call it the Exodus photo.
Yeah.
The key photos.
I think the majority, I could tell by people's reaction if they actually read the post.
Yeah.
Versus just like liked it or thumbs up or, hey, thinking about you. And it's like, okay, you didn't read the post. You just see the photo and you assume I'm saying it's my last day. And what was funny is people that were like emailing me, they had done it themselves, and hear the results. And I think the more the model, if you're using your model that you had been using for a while,
it knows more about you.
Yeah, exactly. It took some shots that normally it wouldn't take. So that was fun. I think the others are kind of cross industry. So I had one, and it was the CEO looking out across his labor, and it was like the majority were employees and then a small thing of contractors. And then he says, I think we need to make headcount cuts. So the next image is the exact same amount of people, just now more contract and less employee. Yeah. And, it was, the point was around metrics. Like if your metric is headcount, that's not a good metric. Yeah. Like it's about labor costs, no matter what bucket they come in.
Yeah.
But that really kind of caught fire because people could see it across any industry.
Yeah.
Right. And there was one about consultants recently. An employee pitches an idea. The CEO says, I hate that. The consultant pitches the exact same idea and says, this is wonderful. Right.
Yeah, and again, 10 times the price too.
Yeah.
Why do you think I'm doing it
now? People, I think you get better overall engagement when it's more agnostic and just those general pieces for industry and the pain points that I think we have. It's somewhat liberating not having to worry that like your boss is going to come in and be like, hey, is that post about me?
Yeah.
And so, you can kind of say the stuff that people are thinking.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. It's funny. I've found, so the most recent one that we had from our podcast was one where we were talking about how people still post their API keys on GitHub. It got like 600,000.
You put it on TikTok, didn't you?
I didn't, but I don't have a TikTok.
Collide did.
Yeah, it hit 600,000 impressions on Collide or on TikTok on the Collide account, which is crazy. But yeah, it's more general, right? Like you had all the AI people talk.
Amazing if your TAM is wider. Than,
right. Yeah. But it was mostly all the software people being like, this has been happening for a decade and people are stupid and they shouldn't do that, just arguing in the comments. But that's another piece of this that I've learned from like watching Colin and stuff is it's like, there's a game to it, right? Where like Colin will post frack with a K and he knows that's going to ignite an entire subset of people to come in the comments, which just drives traffic, right? And so it's interesting that. But then the flip side of it is it's like, I found that like some of my like spur of the moment of like, oh, this is funny. No one will, like, I don't think anybody will care. And it's like, take a picture of, the cars parked out front and Chuck's the only one pulled head first. And I'm like, point out which finance guy which finance guy drives what vehicle. And it's like, yeah, that also enrages people too. But like that literally took 30 seconds of thought and I didn't think it was going to do well. And it was a great one. It's such a weird.
I mean, that's like shit posting
Yes.
always wins.
Yeah.
Like it could be something you didn't even go to ChatGPT. You put your heart and soul into it, like spend an hour and a half curating it, post it, crickets.
Yep.
Like, like, oh shit, that was a funny joke. I'm gonna throw it out there. Like,
Yeah. My OGGN one also popped off pretty well, even though I wasn't attacking anyone. For the record, I will state that just looking at data.
Yeah.
But it's it's such a weird world as far as like figuring. Have you seen any changes since you've been doing it consistently, or not really?
I can't really. I haven't really done the analytics.
It's a whole
I think there's time of day.
Yeah,
sure.
No, absolutely.
Like if you're posting in the morning on a Monday versus midday on a weekend. And what I found is you can usually tell within the first 2 hours.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Because after that, you're somewhat falling off.
I think, but even like Bella has put some stuff like if you get some interaction and then like if someone interacts and then you interact quickly to it, like it builds some momentum and like in the algorithm will start pushing to it. But like if it just sits there dead for 30 minutes, like you're cooked. Like,
when it needs to be true engagement too, not just people like liking it, because that'll only get it so far. Yeah. Right. Like that's another big one is getting a hook to get people into the comments to say something so that other people will then get into the comments and do the same thing.
Reposts, comments.
Reposts have been terrible for me. Like,
like,
they used to like hawk it, like LinkedIn, like this comment should maybe be a repost, and like, did I do that? And it would get nothing.
No, they don't. They don't do shit. They're pretty like I don't understand the
because like I remember I tried to repost the post I had of like when I did the podcast with Funk because that was the first podcast I ever did, and dude, I got like 60 impressions on that thing. And I was like, this is depressing. Like, because it was actually a thoughtful like post and thinking it was like it got nothing. Like,
no, they don't like reposts. They don't like if you include external links in the post. There's all kinds of stuff. I noticed that same TikTok video that got 600 impressions. When I posted it with the TikTok water stamp on it.
Oh yeah,
and it did awful. And then I posted it without, and it did way better. And it's like, this is the amount of tech that they're using to understand what is in a post is pretty.
Well, it's interesting too because you mentioned that you're using AI generated photos, and I think weren't they trying to do some stuff to kind of suppress that a little bit too? Or
I don't know if they're suppressing it as much as just making sure that people know that, like trying to tag it.
Okay,
with some kind of
AI
thing.
generator or something.
But to that point, did you see that Vine is coming back?
No way.
Yeah, I think they're calling it Divine, and they're banning AI content. Like that's their nuance, which I think there's a huge market for that. I think it's going to be really interesting. But apparently they're also starting with all the old Vine videos, which makes me really happy how nostalgic that is.
Yeah. No, you see people that blindly believe, like I've got small kids and I'll show them a video and they're convinced that the grizzly bear is jumping on the trampoline.
Right.
Yeah.
And,
doing backflips.
Yeah. So it is, I could see it starting to go the other way. Just from a reputation perspective, there's obviously the cartoon elements that, who cares? Right. But the more realistic, starting to suppress that, videos have not done well. I'll say that.
I don't like that they've gone to that more real style.
It makes no sense.
Like interaction, like especially on the phone, like it looks like a Facebook reel, like, but on LinkedIn, like, and I think it makes it hard to interact with. Like maybe you might get a thumbs up or something, but like, I liked it when it was more just like embedded into like a LinkedIn.
Card
or whatever.
Post. No, I didn't. I never understood that. Like, well, because that's in at least the way I would think they would intend people to use it is from the phone. Yeah. But I'm not going on LinkedIn to look at reels.
No.
Like I'm going on LinkedIn to look at posts.
Yeah.
It's
because then like the post part that you may put as context for it kind of gets just
gets
like
lost.
Lost in the.
For sure. And then, length of posts is another, at least for videos, is another big one. Like we've A/B tested that a lot. And so like some platforms are better. Like Twitter is really good for longer form content and YouTube obviously, but then Instagram and LinkedIn are normally better for shorter, under a minute or two. And it's like, okay, well, that's fun. Just another thing. But that's the point of all of this is like that data and analytics rabbit hole around social media is so deep. Like there's so much data that they're collecting. And you're just like, oh, okay, this is a lot more than I was anticipating. And all the things you're trying, like all the KPIs you're trying to monitor and measure, it's just like, oh man, time of day, type of post, does it have an image? Does it have a video? Does it have a link? Like all these variables. And so it's a fun thing from a data perspective because you're like, oh, okay, let's start playing around with some of this stuff.
So maybe getting back to where we can dive more on, but like, what's a post that you've made that like, again, maybe near and dear to your heart, or like that you're super passionate about, like that maybe we haven't really gotten?
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
That's a lot of them.
Trying to remember
100 posts.
Trying to remember what I ate yesterday.
Yeah. I think it's really about the enablement.
Yeah.
Trying to give people the right tools, meet them where they are. Like, I've got some fundamental principles around data, like accessible, clean, complete, making sure people have the right tools and kind of that empowerment perspective.
Not enough people in the industry talk about that stuff, in my opinion, right? At least publicly, right?
Yeah.
You might go to a conference
it's the boring, I mean, we've talked about it a lot. I mean, like, and that's kind of where I focus my energy too, like even on the consulting side. And it's like, everyone wants to talk about AI and all this, and I'll let them talk about it. But like, it's just, I still walk in places and people don't have the fundamentals down. And like, and it's just, you've got to have that first before you can do, it's, we haven't been able to do data science without it. You haven't been able to do machine learning. So why do you think you can do AI with it now?
Yeah.
Like,
we'll just give it to the language model. It'll figure it out, Bobby. That's
I went to a conference, I think it was last week. And
future of AI thing.
Yeah. It was interesting because they had a panel, and I think the majority of the panelists were more IT. And they asked them what, the hurdle to AI was, and their perspective was so disconnected.
No, that's so spot on.
Because the IT perspective is security.
Yep.
Yeah.
And everyone in the audience taking the poll is like data. They go, well, data quality, we've had the problems. And it's like, yeah, but you don't understand. This is going to exponentially worsen the problem. Like when you have WellView casing that is sticking out of the ground on the diagram, it's like that model doesn't know that you can't be, 10,000 feet in the air. And vertical. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah. So, again, when you're trying to use your data to add context, to answer questions, and it's bad data, you're going to get bad training and you're going to get bad results.
Yeah.
And like I had the advanced analytics team for a little bit, and, when they would create their ML models, we would talk about public data, but they were literally bringing in entire basins worth of data.
Yeah.
And so a couple of bad data points really didn't affect the model, right?
You're throwing out outliers
like
and whatever else too.
Yeah.
There's some
Anyway.
scrubbing going on.
It wasn't enough to manipulate the model one way or the other, right? Where I think now the more pointed, especially LLM and other elements, you have to be way more careful.
Yeah.
And the approach I took, so one of the things that we did at the company was we created a master attribute table. So golden record, whatever you want to call it. We supposedly had one, but it was more data blending, which I disagree with, because essentially you say this should be the source, but if the data is not there, go to the next source. And if it's not there, go to the next one. I would rather have no data than bad data or data that's not verified. So we basically joined up 8 or 9 different systems, said every well is a record, every attribute is a column. We put a lifecycle trigger to say pre versus like a plan versus actual. So it would change the source. And when we were done, I took it to the executives and I go, your ugly data is now available. I'm not changing it in pipeline. I'm not changing it in anywhere in the system. if it's important enough to change, we're going to go change it in the WellView database or in ProCount. And you would have blanks. And I'm okay with blanks. I'll serve up
now
blanks.
We know, like now
right?
we know, yeah.
And again, I think that view of something is better than nothing isn't the case when it comes to data and you're really trying to do something with it.
Yeah, it's such a like dichotomy, right? Because I'm the same way in your earlier comment of like, I would much rather get too much data than have not enough. But the flip side of that is the data that you use, you need to validate and verify and make sure it's not just complete garbage. And so that's the nuance of a lot of that. I also want to just diatribe for a minute and tell all of these people putting on AI workshops and conferences to quit having these C-suite IT people as panelists on these panels, because they're so disconnected from what is happening that like it, like, oh, we use it to help write emails and stuff. And it's like, that's not why people paid money to come to this conference.
Or again, for your open enrollment bot and whatever, but
right.
Yeah.
We made a rag on our HR policies. It's like, okay, cool. Is that moving anyone's needle?
So, I mean, to that end, I mean, like you've been in it now, I mean, at least, one major, they're obviously, we had to be doing, we got to test out some AI. I mean, have you seen any legitimate wins from using AI, especially on the operations side? I mean,
so this is a future post, but it was brought up at the conference. I don't remember who published the report. It might've been multiple, that like 95%
MIT.
Of pilots or POCs have failed, and they were trying to discuss why. And to me, it's obvious. They were never designed to succeed. When AI became a buzzword and people started going out in earnings calls saying, we're leveraging AI, then boards of companies started to say, how are we using it?
Right.
We have to be able to say the same thing to compete. So then executives go, we need to be able to say
implement
this.
AI.
And we did it. We had people more than willing to give us free proof of concepts. And there was never the intent to try to scale these.
Yeah.
It was like, it's a check the box.
Yep.
We did it. And this was a couple of years ago. And I remember that was kind of my first introduction to like behind the curtain. And I won't say any names, but they essentially said, what are like 10 questions you would ask the model? And then what are the queries you would write to answer those questions? And when we got the proof of concept back, it could answer those 10 questions flawlessly.
Yeah.
But as soon as we ask another question, it literally broke. And it's like, okay, we're not far enough along and we don't have the resources or want to pay for somebody to sit there and basically code in
fine-tune the model for
a model to answer every specific question. So yeah, I viewed it as, here's the way the technology works. Here's what it would take to implement. And we weren't ready to really take that on. I haven't seen anything beyond the just general, you ask a question, how do I get this software? And it tells you fill out a ticket, right? It's more like a general company co-pilot is what I've seen so far.
Yeah. I mean, I think we had the whiskey and data tonight. I think it's kind of where we arrived is like, I think more companies need to be giving access to things like Cursor or, whatever else that, are amplifying what they do. But I think that's the best use of it right now is like to amplify, make a, person twice as efficient, what they do by, they want to code or certain things and make them better at it. But I don't think we're definitely not necessarily put it on top of everything and it solves all your problems.
No. Well, and that's the thing too, right? Is it's like, even in our experience deploying some of our search products into some of these enterprises, it's like, okay, it's a chicken and egg thing, right? Like I can train this model if I know all the questions you're going to ask it, but you don't even know all the questions you're going to ask it. So how am I supposed to train the model? And so in my experience with that stuff, especially on just like RAG or search, it's whoever you're working with should be very clear that it's an iterative process, right? Like one of our first clients was Kraken, and we were doing on the search on their midstream contracts, right? And the first couple, like we have now built in a 2-week kind of beta period where the users just go in and test and ask their questions and all of that. And so we had that period. They were getting a bunch of bad results. We went through, there was some stuff on the chunking side that we changed, and we immediately got so much better results. But that's just for that one use case. And so like the next use case, the chunk size might be different, the temperature might be different, the model we use might be different. But that's another piece of this that I don't think people like appreciate, is that it's not going to be perfect out of the box ever.
Yeah.
Like we're nowhere near that.
Yeah.
But also because it's not perfect doesn't mean that it can't get there as well. And so that's an interesting point. The other thing about that paper that you mentioned that no one talks about because it wasn't in the headline, it was, the 95% was the headline, is there was a section in there about 60% of industry specific deployments have been successful, or like vertically integrated things have been successful. And I think that ultimately ends up being the reality, because, like I thought about this the other day and it just like blew my mind. All the foundational model companies, like think about trying to train one model to be good at everything and to know everything.
Yeah.
Like we're trying to do it just for oil and gas, and it takes a long ass time to get them right. And so like these general foundational models, trying to be good at, have a PhD, pass the bar, pass like all these exams and stuff. It's like, and even then it's like, okay, well, you just took the questions from the exam and you trained it to answer those questions. All those benchmarks that are out there, it's the same thing. Those models are just trained on the benchmarks. That doesn't mean they're a better model. It just means they beat the benchmarks because they did a better job training them or whatever it is. And so a lot of it is, there's just so much nuance with all of that stuff. But one of the things you brought up earlier, I was going to chime in, but I didn't, that I feel like now's a good time, is there's so much, I don't know what I don't know in our industry. And that ends up being like almost a gatekeeper for technology or for automations or for things like that, where it's like, Bob in regulatory knows how to use Excel. That's all Bob knows how to do. So everything that Bob's doing for his regulatory stuff is in Excel. He doesn't realize that I can pull the data directly into Python, and I can connect to the database, and I can do all this stuff in Python. And I don't have to worry about, the well name starting with a dash, turning it into a formula in the Excel sheet.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's this knowledge gap where, because we've had that for so long, I think there's so many, AI is going to improve those types of workflows well before it's doing your job for you.
Yeah. It was to that point, we were one to lock down GPT when it came out. And then we had some conversations and said, okay, as long as we understand and we can control it. So made the enterprise agreement, kind of wardened it off in Azure, and everything worked. So we were on a data council. So it was the IT directors and myself, and it kind of became the like AI council. So we would start to talk about what are the use cases, and we would survey people, and we got a lot of response. But when you actually read what they were trying to do, is like, this is not AI.
Yeah.
Like this is a VBA macro, right? This is a bot. Like,
right.
But again, they didn't know that this has already been available for a decade. They just don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I remember telling our interim CEO at University of Lands, is like, it pains me to say this, but like, if we just taught half the people here how to use how to record a macro, they'd be way more efficient.
Yeah.
Oh, it's true though. Right. Like
they don't even know that exists. Like they don't even know that they can just go hit a record button, delete these columns and, run this filter or whatever. And then bam, it works. And you can do that every time. But like, I don't want people to learn that. I'd rather them go another step and use a better tool for it.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Well, it's, the problem is everyone pitches LLMs as like, it'll do everything for you. Every foundational model company wants you to think it's the next best thing besides sliced bread, but it's a tool. Like that's how we have to think about this. It's another tool in the toolbox. But we get like, I can't tell you how many times I've been in a client's office, first meeting, and there's always a production or like an IoT guy in the room, and they're like, I want it to optimize all my artificial lift. I'm like, well, it's a language model. And so all your artificial lift data is numbers, and language models are not built for numbers. I was like, you need a machine learning model that was probably built 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Didn't someone say in that Mosquito Data Night that they had it take the table of data, but they converted it like into sentences or something like that? Like on this day,
you can do that.
It made 30 barrels of oil, blah, blah, blah. And like, so turn the table into language, and then it was able to do language things on the,
because that's what it's, again, it's not magic. It's a predictive word model. It's predictive language. And if it doesn't have language, it doesn't know what the hell to do.
Yeah. I think maybe it was a post yesterday. Circling back to what do I think like companies need to do, what they should do is let people play with these tools.
Yeah.
And what I've seen and continue to see is like I'm behind personally on playing around with the new stuff, right? Because we don't have access to it.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, no, you're not getting Cursor. You know, we had OpenAI, and you could use that.
Mm-hmm.
But all of the other stuff going on, you don't have access to.
Right.
Even if you could put it in a air gap environment,
right? Just sandbox it
and say, okay, this is public data,
mm-hmm.
or we're going to create synthetic data,
mm-hmm.
and we're going to populate it and go out and see what you can do, test things. No one gets the opportunity. So, with two small kids, I don't have a ton of free time at home, right? To be keeping up. But the people that will enable, they're curious, and it's probably 10% of the employees that will take the time to go do it. There's another percentage, if you tell them that's what they should do, they'll figure it out. And then the bottom percentage, you'll have to force them to do it. But let them have an opportunity to play with it. Where we're at now is we wait for a third-party company that's been focused on that to come in and say, this is how it works.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, okay, you know how to do it. So you come in, you're taking on the same technology risk.
Yeah,
if you're going to...
Right. Now it's through someone else's stack.
Yeah. So I just, there has to be a paradigm shift in the way that they set that up and allow people to play, and pushing it down to those that are curious and Google. Like before LLMs, we all Googled.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. Could you imagine if we cut off Google access, like how screwed companies would be?
That was part of the IT pushback when we were going to open up ChatGPT was, can you imagine if somebody blindly believes what they get as an answer?
It's like,
and I said, they're responsible as an employee for their product.
We're paying them for their subject matter expertise.
Right.
They need to use their discretion.
You can go Google and get a Stack Overflow that's incorrect, right? It's on you if you present that as your work. This is no different.
Yep.
We shouldn't have people in critical positions blindly trusting the internet.
Yes.
Yeah, go to ChatGPT. How do I get access to this AWS database? I'll just set the firewall to 0 to 0 0, and then and it'll work, but it also totally screw you.
Yeah.
No, but it's a good, that's what I tell everyone. We're still in the early innings of all of this stuff, and it is very much so trust but verify. Like, you're the human.
Yeah.
It's a machine. It's a predictive model at the end of the day, and it's up to you to validate this.
And I tell people too, because I know y'all probably run into it a little bit too, where certain providers like, oh, you can't use that on top of my data, or whatever. It's like, this is just another interface to the data. Just like Spotfire is an interface to the data, or Excel or whatever. This is just another way to interact with it. Instead it's a chat bar instead of me having to write code or create some other kind of connection to it.
I completely agree with you, though. There are workarounds if you're worried about the data security piece. Synthetic data is a fantastic, it's a great, go to whatever model that you can use, have it generate a synthetic data set from a real data set, and then use the synthetic data set and it will work, and it works really well. Whether you're on Azure or AWS, they all have AI studios that make it incredibly easy to go and deploy a model and start
within your,
and it's absolutely within your servers or your resource groups or whatever flavor you're in. but yeah, even then, like people still don't know that going to OpenAI directly is different than using the Azure OpenAI instance. And it's like, those are very different things. Yeah. The data that's being moved is going to very different places, and like there's all kinds of things around that. And so I think that's another piece, is just like IT and legal are catching up to, okay, well, this one does this, and it sandboxes it or doesn't store, and then all of this stuff. But then you also have the legal side of it, where it's like, I saw something a while back where they're talking about like, forcing the foundational model companies to keep logs for X amount of time because of the Fed, like FBI and stuff. If they needed to subpoena somebody, they wanted that data. And it's like, oh, well, that's fun. That makes this very different. Now it's true 1984. We're just telling it all of our secrets. Yeah. Voluntarily too at that. So it's but I agree with you. Like the people that adopt it and understand how to integrate it and empower people with it will do laps around people who are stonewalling it. And at the end of the day, it's like, would you ever shut Google off? No. Well, then why are we shutting this off? Because it's literally
make people use Bing and see how quick you get a strike.
Pull up Ask Jeeves as your default search.
Yeah, you've got to keep up. It's the same thing, like on the technology side and operations. Like, if you were still doing sliding sleeve jobs when everybody else is doing plug and perf slick water, or, even more dramatic is like, we're not all still using cable rigs. We're sliding, self-walking, drilling rigs around. Like, when you look at it from that perspective, everybody will say, I want to be a fast follower. Like, there's the people that are going to be out there and the bleeding edge, but this should be no different. Yeah. Like, you don't want to sit on your hands too long and lose competitive advantage from execution in the field. It should be the exact same thing with your people in the office. Yeah. If they're losing competitive advantage in figuring out where to drill the next well or how to maximize spacing, depletion, and completion, why would you not want that to happen?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing that I see is, it's like right now AI is not going to find oil or optimize any of your stuff. But what it is going to do is it's going to take the 30 to 40% of your time you spend not doing those things, like regulatory or accounting or, just copying and pasting data from one place to another. And it's going to allow you to have more time to actually use your brain and what you're hired to do. Because there's we're so behind from that perspective that it's like, we're going to skip. I feel like we're going to take a jump because we're going to automate all these back office things and then be like, oh, well, the benefit of that I see as someone who's been laid off a million times is like, hey, maybe we don't have to staff up as quickly as we would have in the past just because of operational activity, because more people are actually focused on the real work and not the stuff that we can automate, and not, filing regulatory permits for every well that they've got. Yeah. And so hopefully that means on the downside, there's not all these mass layoffs and stuff like we've all experienced before. And so I'm cautiously optimistic about that, but we'll see. It all depends on the leadership of all these companies at the end of the day. And you were spot on, where it's like, okay, well, we've got to be AI enabled. And then it's like, well, no, you need to like actually understand what that means, right? Yeah. Like, is that giving people cursor, or is that automating a workflow? Like, those are completely different scenarios that exist, but both potentially equally as valuable.
Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, we like to talk AI and technology. It really goes back to workflows. Yeah. And automating bad workflows isn't any better. And so, again, what we saw during, the layoffs starting in kind of 2015, no one is sharing their work and their workflows. This is their job. They do it. And then now they're not there. Yeah. So somebody else goes,
recreates it or takes it over. Yeah.
Why were they doing it this way? Right. Yeah. I could do this in 10 minutes every morning. And so part of by necessity, a lot of work got better when there were less people to do it, but the same amount to get done. And so it doesn't have to be AI. Yeah. It's just like driving that culture of constant improvement. Yeah, I rebuild my own stuff all the time. Yep. Because I didn't know.
Yeah, you go back to a script and like, well, hey,
Right.
you're 2 years down the road.
Yeah,
you're
like,
what was I doing?
Yeah. I don't need that table,
Yeah.
you know?
Listen, that is the best part about using some of these coding tools is like, you go through, you're writing all these scripts and then you get it to write validation scripts and test scripts and all this stuff. And at the end, once you get it right, you're like, okay, now go clean this up and remove everything I don't need.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my gosh, this makes it
Yeah.
it's so much easier to revisit. Oh, and then also write me a README markdown file that describes exactly what we're doing.
Yeah.
But I think to your point, like the enablement part, just like let people, in my opinion, are inherently lazy because they, and I don't mean that in the best way possible, right? Like I don't mean that in a derogatory way at all. I am at the top of that list.
If I can do the same thing in less time, then
yes, if I can automate something so that I don't forget that I'm supposed to do it tomorrow or every Wednesday or whatever the hell it is, there's a very strong chance that I inherently will try and do that. Like everybody wants to make their job as pleasant and as painless as possible. And there's a lot of pain and uncertainty in most people's jobs these days. And so it's like, let that get automated away and let them solve those problems and then start worrying about bigger things. But man, we're already, this has been, we blew through that time. We're already past. So that's always a sign that it was a good conversation. Do you want to do news or speed round?
Go ahead and do a speed round.
Okay. Where are you from originally?
Snyder, Texas.
Okay.
Which is out west.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of sits in between Abilene, San Angelo, Lubbock, Midland.
Okay.
What's your favorite place if you're going out that way to stop and grab some food?
Oh,
either Snyder, Abilene, anywhere over there.
So I went to school at Tech in Lubbock. Thai pepper across the street from the university. I probably ate the cool special 100 times when I was at college. That's the one thing I miss.
What is your stance on the tortillas?
We could not throw tortillas when we were there.
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
What is that? I don't understand.
So
let's continue to ruin college football.
Yeah, it's, I actually had to look up why they did it.
Yeah.
And it was way back, Southwest Conference. Somebody said, oh, you're going to the bowl, the tortilla bowl? Mm-hmm. And so for that game, they threw tortillas and they had the penalty where if anything came on the field, it was like a 15-yard penalty. Yeah. So we got patted down to make sure we didn't have them. And then one day I turn it on. I'm like, the tortillas are back. Like I feel like I got gypped,
mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then Lubbock was a dry county when I was there, and now it's wet. So it's, all around gypped.
Yes. That's
I was just thinking about
feel that
because you're probably almost exactly my age. You started college in 2004, but so you were there like when they had Crabtree and all that, like when they beat UT and all that.
Yeah. That was the first year out was when they did that. I was watching in Gillette, Wyoming, but we had Mike Leach. We're still there.
I miss Mike Leach.
The crazy pirate. So we actually had Bobby Knight as the.
That's right.
As the basketball coach.
Basketball coach. Yeah.
So I still don't know if this is like AI generated or not because it came out around the same week that all the AI generated videos came out like a month ago. But like, there's a video on Twitter of like Bobby Knight doing a golf lesson out of the trap. Like he has like a pro teaching him how to hit out of the trap, and it is.
I think that's real. I think I saw that years ago, like how to throw a club.
Well, this was like him hitting out of the bunker and is like, look at that shit.
Just like down.
But it came out like the same week that people were posting videos of like Stephen Hawking doing the Olympics and stuff. And I was like, and so I was like, man, is this AI generated? We're at that point. Is this AI generated or not? Because they made it look like, I'm sure you could tell Sora to like make it look like it's from the 80s or whatever. But it was, whether or not it was real or not, it was fantastic.
What a world we live in that we have to ask that question.
Yeah.
Let's do a couple more. So come back over to Houston. You've been here at least, 15, 20 years now?
Oh, no, just 9.
Oh, only 9. Okay.
Yeah.
But long enough to enjoy. What's your favorite place to eat in Houston area?
Oh, Taste of Texas. Anytime I can go.
Yeah.
Still great. Pick your own steak.
Yeah, I love that being right there at the Marathon Building.
Yeah. It was any opportunity we had, we would try to go there.
Sweet.
Yeah.
What is one tool or library or program that you think more people should be using either on the data side or the operations side?
It's got to be Alteryx. That's forever a super fan. So if anybody from Alteryx is listening, I need a license to play around when I don't have a job here. So not going to be mad. Send one over.
Yeah, I haven't touched it. I do a lot more of the physical coding, but I know it's got a really strong following and people that use it really love it. So
it's basically no code, low code, visual.
But no, I mean, like, again, give people tools that they can be productive in. And so, well, perfect, man. Well, no, I mean, thanks for, finally finally made the time for it. And I know, it can be tough, negotiating the corporate hierarchy and everything.
Yeah,
so.
no, appreciate you guys reaching out. It's been a blast.
Same, man. We appreciate you coming.
Yeah.
Thanks for
talking with us. Where can people find you?
On LinkedIn, Justin McBroom. I'll inundate your page if the algorithm hits right. Yeah. So
what day are we on right now?
Well, now you're counting down.
I'm doing a countdown. So I got 30 days left to end transition. So that'll be the post today, 30 days.
Yeah, it's great stuff. Please keep posting. Because not enough people in our industry talk about anything, no less in public. So we appreciate it. Thanks, guys. If y'all need anything from us, you know where to find us. We are running a Black Friday thing on Collide next week. There's only it's some kind of limited drop. I was
going to ask about that. I eyeballing that a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
Also, you've got some,
I did.
Yeah, please plug, right?
Try to start a little t-shirt run. So I think one of the posts shows it's data, not data. So I have a t-shirt and it's SQL, not SQL. So yeah. Scroll through, find them. I think I've linked the store in the comments. So
yeah, maybe we do some kind of a joint merch thing there. We get that on the doghouse.
Yeah.
Cool, guys. We appreciate it. We'll see y'all next time. Thanks again, man.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks.